So we're moving into decreasing the deficit. Our first exercise is going to be a clean from block position, right? So we talked about with increasing the deficit, why potentially a snatch for this more ectomorph body type to go through a larger range of motion, to tap into that more of that force length potential. When we're thinking about clean, we're thinking now we're trying to transfer to that mesomorph body type or that endomorph body type, the bigger, squattier person that's going to be better at pushing as opposed to pulling, the long to short person. And cleans are really a nice little tool there, right? And some of the things that I would like to say in terms of some of the best indicators on this is look at the body types in weightlifting that's the best at cleaning versus snatching, right? The guys who can clean the house, the 240 people of the world, are probably shorter, squattier folks. And I would say, relatively speaking, if we're looking at their total, majority of their total is built up through their clean and jerk as opposed to their snatch. Versus the long, skinny, ectomorph body type could probably just snatch the house, right? Because they're a better lever. And again, that thorax to pelvis relationship that we talk so much about in the book, we talk so much about the other actual courses, we're thinking about this in regards to, okay, what potential can I get from that exercise and what's going to leverage me to increase or decrease that deficit? In this case, we want to use cleans to decrease the deficit or improve that concentric demand. Also too, it's concentric orientation. So I'm not thinking about going from a hang. I can still use a hang. And by that point that I'm actually getting to this part of my overall progression, I should have this movement really mastered. I should be really good at cleans, right? So maybe I have a progression working top down where I work from the hang all the way down to the floor. I start to work in front squats. I have a lot of different movement patterns built in. We're well past that point. Right now I want to start to leverage various block heights or various positions where I can pull from or various overloading strategies to really challenge that clean to get as much emphasis to decreasing the deficit. So our first one is going to be a block power clean. We talked about various heights, right? We can go from a high position down to a low position. Again, that force length, where am I going to be strong from? We're going to do a lot of partials. We're going to do a lot of inertials, do a lot of isometronics. The key being is just trying to put our athletes in challenging environments where they're forced to really create some sort of reaction or response. We talked about with increasing the deficit that I want to be at length. Well, that force length kind of works from a shortened position, right, as well, because we're not as strong when we are shortened position. We're always kind of strongest when we have that highest sarcomere overlap. So when I'm really shortened or lengthened, I'm not going to have as much sarcomeres. So it's another opportunity. This is why we focus so much on overcoming isometrics as opposed to yielding isometrics for that person that's trying to decrease the deficit. So a block clean, I like to work in a good stance. I like to actually really work in a pause position in both end ranges, right? Can I control the proximal and distal part of that movement or the beginning and the end, right? So as I start to think about, okay, where am I going to apply a pause here? Where am I going to reinforce technique? How can I put more constraints on that to really focus on decreasing the deficit? Okay, we're going to just go through the movement with a pause in that static position. Remember, in a 3-point stance, I'm here, down, ready, set, hut. Okay, that's a lot like this sport-specific type of thing, right? And I'm not saying we have to go on a cadence for that, but we want to reinforce those positions and reinforce, can I react? Can I make a sudden transition? Can I break inertia? So when we're going through this, get a good stance, get a good position, think pause, 1, 2, 3. Get a pause here in this catch position, 1, 2, 3, reset, and then go again. 2 to 3 reps, multiple sets. Remember, when we have less reps, we have more sets. So that would be a strategy as we talk about decreasing the deficit, less time and attention, right? Because we're not going longer eccentric. We're going to have very fast reps. That's the whole point of decreasing the deficit. We're really trying to push that concentric output. We're trying to be explosive as much as humanly possible. So we're almost decreasing that time and attention. But remember, most of our inside the box, decreasing the deficit athletes have to increase their body mass. So we have to compensate for that low time and attention per rep per set by having more sets. So we're thinking almost the opposite of what we're getting with our increase in the deficit athletes, where they have a little bit elongated time under tension because we're focusing so much more on the eccentric portion. We still want to maybe accumulate a lot of sets because that's our best way to ensure quality, but just a different focal point. 6 sets of 2 to 3, it's a pretty good rep scheme. And we can work various heights. We want to work that top position where we're kind of technically really weak. We can't build as much momentum. That's a really good strategy to think about. We want to be comfortable getting into out of that 3-point stance. We got a taller athlete that we really want to be strong coming out the floor. Okay, great, progressing down to the floor by lowering the block. So that's block power clean, first exercise for decreasing the deficit.